We're live.
We're live. Hello. I'm still trying to get accustomed to this new way of doing things, dude.
Well, it's it's a learning curve for sure, right? And we've done a lot to get to this point and then integrate all these new devices. It's kind of like a physical metaphor for like all the little things that we've learned that add up to like big changes in our lives.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%. So I'm gonna minimize my screen so I don't have to keep staring at myself. How does it sound on your side?
Sounds good. You know, so I
Oh, dude, I forgot to put my headphones on.
we are chaotic positively failing forward, which is fine. This is awesome.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Hello Spiritual Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jose,
And I'm your other host, Amit.
and we are brought to you on another episode of this podcast.
On this Monday Madness. Monday,
Bro, I
Monday.
can't believe it's Monday. I usually love Mondays, but for some reason today did not love it.
I felt
I
like
love Mondays, but not today.
it felt like a Sunday to me. Like just cognitively, it's just like, oh, it's Sunday. No.
Like on Saturday when I was driving up to Tahoe with my buddy Eric, I totally forgot that it was Saturday.
Hmm.
And I was already thinking how I had to go to work the next day. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, Eric, is tomorrow Monday? He's like, no, dude, today's Saturday. I was like, oh shit, I keep thinking today's Sunday. Like I have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, when you're out living life, I think a little bit of that disorientation is worth it because we're
Yeah.
so used to the day to day,
Yeah.
right? So shifting that up and like getting a little bit confused, but then also remembering where you're at, I think is one of those beautiful small moments in life because you've officially like gotten out of the day to day to question
Mhm.
it because you're so used to it.
Yeah. I mean, I was excited and I'm like, yes, I get an extra day off.
Those are actually the best.
And also too, I feel that life has been moving really fast. I mean, this month is all pretty much over. Tomorrow's the last day, and we're already in March.
Well, February's just usually short months. You know, every 4
Yeah,
years
about
it's
what,
longer.
2 to 3 days shorter.
I think it's like 3 or 4. Yeah.
But even as soon as New Year's happens, everything just happens really fast. Like time just whoosh, next thing you know, it's 2024,
But
and we're talking about the same
what does that teach you though?
thing.
We want to
Time is over.
segue into our topic, which is being
Yeah.
remaining teachable. Remain teachable.
Remain teachable, continue to be a student. That's something that we picked up on that when we were in AA, and we've always were taught to stay open minded, willing in, willing to learn and expand. And I feel that that has morphed into different facets in our lives where we could implement this concept around remaining teachable. Um, I know there's something you're always quoting, which is someone else always knows more than you, or something more than you, something like that.
Bill Nye, everyone knows something you do not.
Yeah. And when we stay open and remain teachable, we open this portal of new information to flow in. We create space for new things to come in. Um, you can bring in new energy if you hold it on to old energy that's not serving you anymore.
We talked about it in the example of like if you have a swimming pool full of like floating balls or whatnot, you
Mhm.
can't input new like items in there unless you remove something out. So in this
Exactly.
case, information, new information, you got to take something out. And like I think theoretically, our brains can store roughly around 4 gigabytes of like information. So think about it. Your phone has more memory than what statistically your brain can actually hold.
So you're saying this tiny little thing is better than my brain?
I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying the storage capacity.
I know I'm
So
just fucking with you.
with this, it's like there there has to be a give and take,
Yeah.
right? And with this comes many different things. I think the way that I want to talk about this topic is talk about like the benefits of
Yeah.
remaining teachable,
Yeah.
then talk about what may block, what may limited mindset or limited belief,
Hmm.
to then modalities of reaching that open mindedness, reaching that
Yeah.
open heartedness, open receiving, like being open to
Hmm.
things.
Yeah. And I think we've had an episode in our old setup around what it looks like. What are the benefits of keeping your heart open? And it ties really well with this. A lot of abundance can happen when we remain open. Um, today I was on the phone with a potential new therapist, and I was talking to my boss about it. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you kind of stopped doing therapy and this and this and that." I was like, "Yeah, I stopped for a while." And when I was dating that person last year, I did a few sessions just because I need to be in the client role instead of always being in the coach role, and the person that's always giving people advice. I need to be on the other side. I need to hear a professional ask me these powerful questions. And I need to dig a little deeper and help her, allow her to help me question things and see things that I would not seen with my own experience, my own wisdom. And not that the wisdom wasn't there; it was already in there within myself. It's just I wasn't asking the right questions, and they weren't hidden the way it opens you up for information to come out and for you allowed to see things in a way where it's conducive to your health. So So that's just an example of remaining teachable. I have a lot of experience. I've done therapy for a lot of years. I've been coaching a lot of different things. I am a coach. I know a lot, but there's power behind humbling yourself and realizing that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
And in that process, because you're saying like you can't always be in the lead role, you want to sometimes be in the opposite role because it
Yeah.
creates balance for you.
Receive. Yeah, like
there's
receivable.
there's a space in there where it may be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
If you've done a lot of something on one side, going and transitioning to the other side to get a full whole view on that may come with
Mhm.
its own difficulties. But then in that act of humility, which is some of the modalities, right?
Yeah.
Lessening the ego and just being open of like, what can this actually teach me? Reframing those thoughts, that narrative, you get to learn that other side of it.
Right. Yeah. And it also goes back to that concept of instead of always being the giver, be on the seat of receiving as well. And for me, I've always had a hard time doing that. I always felt more comfortable giving because just it came natural, but also too, some of my trauma was I didn't know how to receive because if I did receive, it would be taken away from me. So I'd rather
Mhm.
be on the side of giving because I have control over that. And there's this other thing that I realized in the last few years is this survival tactic that I always needed to implement as far as I always had to know something. I had to know something in order to do something. Like always had to know. For me, the unknown was very fearful. I would not do anything unless I knew something. And that goes back to lack of control, which means I don't feel safe.
Mhm.
And when I was able to no, I wouldn't say shift out of it, but see it in the lens of, oh wait, this is actually not good for me anymore. Like this behavior that I'm enacting, it's not serving me anymore. It's keeping me small. And I don't want to be in that space anymore. And it ties in what we talked about in the last few episodes, was just questioning your answers, whatever's coming up for you. Because I would say 9 out of 10 times it was conditioned to you to respond that way. And the voice that's coming in, it may not be your voice, it may be what was conditioned programmed to you as a kid. It just stuck with you because it helped you survive and stay safe.
Yeah. So this ties in with, well, I wanted to touch on the benefits of the open mindedness because you mentioned a few right there. You get to
Mhm.
expand, you get to fully empathize with maybe a person or a situation. You get to learn
Mhm.
about things. You get to experience what this world has to offer in its entirety, right? Like I think that's a very beautiful thing. Like I was put on this planet for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I want to be open
Yes.
minded to all the inputs that are coming in through
Mhm.
people, through experiences, through I don't know things, right?
Mhm.
Each one of them, and like I'm somewhat of a believer that everything was written, so that it helps me with my anxiety and whatnot. That everything happens kind of for a reason. Sometimes I may not know why something's may be happening up front, but generally, if I'm getting some type of emotional reaction from it, it tells me that there's either work to do or there's something that needs to be expressed in there. And if all these emotions are human, everyone has them, then let me express them. Let me move that energy through my body to fully process whatever's going on. In case in point of
Mhm.
like grief or of like happiness, like it's gonna come through you and you allow it to
Yeah.
go through you. So
Mhm.
if I always go back to the things that I hold. I guess it's like my moral code, but like memento mori, right? Remember
Mhm.
that you must die. Not saying in like a downer type of way, but like if I'm going to leave this planet at some point, then why not make the most of what I have right now, which integrates
Yeah.
gratitude and humility and deflates the ego so that I can be
Mhm.
present for it, right?
Right.
Thing that you mentioned is some old ideas for swinging to like blocks and limited
Mhm.
beliefs through a new lens. I think that the metaphor that we read in that book, which was talking about like imagine you're in a room with like the giant TV and like you're on a channel and you're watching it and you never change the channel to view
Mhm.
something from a different perspective.
Right.
You're stuck on that when you identify with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone maybe next in the next apartment over to you, they're watching the same thing through a different channel and
Right.
they're getting a different perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to challenge those beliefs, challenge those ideas to switch the channel, to switch the frames, to switch the what we're looking at. It's like Instagram filters for life is the best way I could think of it as, right?
Yeah, and that's really spot on. And I think that was, I believe we that book came from Healing the Shame That Binds You.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a really good book, really in depth. So if you ever want to check that book out, I highly suggest and take your time reading it because it's pretty thick. It's a thick book and it takes a lot patience to read it and actually integrate the stuff that's on there. Um, I recently had this experience last week, and I don't think I talked about it on the podcast last week. Around, I went through this edging process with one of my colleagues, and I came into the session open minded, but I did express to her that I didn't have a lot going on in my life as far as to work through. But I came into it with open mind. I'm like, okay, whatever comes up, but I don't feel like I have anything to bring to the table because when you do the edging process, you have to come in with something to work with, something that could help you dysregulate your nervous system. So you get pushed to the edge and connect with the body and then self-regulate through the presence of someone else and creates a lot of safety into your body and someone else, which is kind of co-regulation as well too. And I kid you not. I was just going through the process. She was guiding me through it. And next thing you know, I had this tightness around my shoulders, like this, like stretch feeling. It felt like my muscles were tearing. And she allowed me to um, intensify that sensation, um, increase the sensation to push my edge. And next thing you know, I just start feeling like my eyes tingle a little bit and my throat started getting a little tight. Then I started crying. And I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? And I realized that I've been, for my whole life, I've been holding a lot. I always had to hold a lot of weight, emotional weight, physical weight. It was always hard for me to ask for help. just because the way I grew up, that you don't ask for help, you just do everything and just to cater to everyone else. And I didn't know that I've been holding a lot lately. A lot of sadness. Um, and what came for me around that time was I just want to be held. I just wanted to I just wanted help. I wanted someone to take care of me. And I knew that was little Pepe needing some attention. Not letting him hold on to the emotional baggage that I've been holding on to. Not that I'm saying that I've been ignoring things. I've been allowing things to come through and release them in a way where I feel like it came out. But I think I've just been really busy with a lot of different things in life that it just came over me on Friday. And it was such a beautiful experience. And what I learned from that was even though I didn't have much to come in with, but I stayed open. I stayed teachable in that process and just allow my colleague to just guide me through this beautiful process. And and it came a wonderful experience. There was a huge release. And it reminded me of I gotta take care of myself. When I need time to myself, I need to just relax. So that's what I did on Sunday. I had a send-in day on Saturday. I drove all the way to Tahoe. I think I drove a combination of like 10 hours in one day,
in
10 or 12 hours.
in the middle of a snowstorm.
Yeah, and the blizzard, it was awesome. It was so cool. Like I kid you not, I felt like a little kid walking around in the snow because Eric and I we got there and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna." I was like, "Let's split it up for about 30 minutes," or he suggested. So we went our separate ways. And I remember just walking and just this, I just this my whole body just came over with this sense, excuse me, with this sensation of gratitude. Like my whole body was tingling. Had my hands up, and I was just saying to myself, "Thank you. I'm so fucking blessed. This life is so goddamn beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here today. I get to live this life today." Um, and then Sunday, I decided to take the day for myself. I had plans with someone else, and I told him, I was like, "I'm going to take the day to myself." And I think that stemmed from that Friday session of it's okay to take it easy. It's okay to take a day for yourself. It's okay to cancel your plans with someone else, regardless of how they respond, how they take it. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility to listen to your body and give it what it needs. And I did. And I shared these two experiences because I stayed open. I stayed teachable. I remained a student and allowed things to come through me when it was supposed to come through me. I didn't fight it.
Yeah.
I didn't say, "Oh, I already worked through this," like trying to like push it down. I was like, "No, you know what? I'm open to this. I'm gonna remain teachable. A lot of things to come through me." And it was such a wonderful experience. It was beautiful. It was actually, yeah, it was yeah, it was gorgeous.
I appreciate you sharing that. And it does sound like a lot of flow, a lot of energy being moved
Mhm.
around, noticing when something comes up and allowing it to process through you, like I was saying earlier, because you're getting different stimuli from what you just expressed your weekend, right? Just even
Yeah,
going to Tahoe, that's one experience. That the inner child in me who's getting excited about that. It's just like, oh, change
yeah,
of environment. You're like
yeah.
something new. You're excited, right? I think there's a aspect of curiosity, like we mentioned in one of the podcasts before. And my lights just went out.
Your lights or your power?
No, my lights just went out. That was weird.
Oh, May, you look so different.
It's the universe saying something to me.
Ooh, stay open.
Um, but yeah, remaining in that inner child like curiosity because there's new stimulus coming into it, right? Um, I want to sit on the blocks because
Mhm.
you just what you just expressed is a way that you process things very fluidly. We weren't always like that, right?
Oh no, 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 no.
John Bradshaw. What was the author of that book? Healing the Shame That Binds You.
John Bradshaw.
Yes. It's
What
someone
is the one
asked.
asking about it?
Yeah, someone asked in the chat about that.
Oh yeah, I think
You would have it like
someone
right behind on your desk.
I do. He actually has another book about inner child. and it's called Homecoming. It's such a good book as well too. If you want to learn more about inner child work, a really good book.
Yeah, because a lot of what we're talking about relates to that, right? But I want to talk about the blocks really quick and dive deeper into that
Hmm.
because we weren't always in this more fluid state, right? There's been a lot of work, and the key points in here that I see is like the inner child work for one, two,
Hmm.
navigating the traumas that come in, and three, challenging the beliefs that are there because self-identification of certain beliefs will cause a limited mindset, right? You want to think about best example I can think of is politics. I
Hmm.
don't care about politics, but people will damn near go out and die to protect their politician or something,
Yeah.
which is in the same sort of state of mind. You identify with something. Sometimes removing the identity of that allows the greater depth of like what
Hmm.
else is there in store.
Yeah.
So limiting beliefs. I think I didn't know I had a lot of limiting beliefs until I ran into these blocks when I'm trying to do work. Right. I think most people don't. You operate through life through a certain level of things that you understand. And it's only when you intentionally focus on something may come up, and then
Hmm.
there's a transitionary point in there. I think from like the last two episodes that we talked about, where you have a choice,
Yeah.
and you didn't realize you had a choice before.
Yeah.
Right. So open mindedness that comes from seeing where my mind is closed.
Yeah.
It comes from when I have resistance to something. Usually, my body, getting aware around like where energy is stored, anxiety, anger, fear. Generally, there's a lot of projection of anger to hide fear in society, and that's like one thing that I see coming up. Like it's
Mhm.
buried deep below because it's just like you were saying, connected with little Pepe. You're just
Yeah.
trying to protect the little inner child inside you through these other
Mhm.
methods of conditioning that has been put on there, the other coping mechanisms that are there.
Mhm.
So if I'm trying to think of an example of being open minded to something. Like with COVID going on, like the whole when it whole started, I was super joyful because then I didn't have to see people in real life because I don't like being out in public and all that stuff. Like I was like, all right, cool.
True story.
So I noticed, 2 years of doing that of the isolation stuff, coming back into the regular world of like trying to. There's never gonna be a normal. What is a new normal? I was like, damn, I have to like practice this to do that. I'm like, but I don't want to. And I was like, but I have to if
Yeah.
I'm going to get ahead in either, pursuing a relationship or pursuing some career or socializing in new communities. Like, there's something I have to do. So I'm like, where is the block coming up from?
Yeah.
Right? Where is the fear coming up from? Why am I having resistance to it? And where is it being
Yeah.
held?
Yeah.
Right? Seeing where that is in the body and being able to look at that objectively. I think that's the key point. Like, there was a, remember we talked about something like maybe a year or two ago is about if there's a decision to be made. It was one of the episodes. Decision to made. Can you zoom out and look at the actual facts of the thing?
Yeah.
Can you objectively look at the decision rather than respond from the emotions? Use the emotions as like this is what may be coming up as a checklist of seeking safety,
Yeah.
and ask yourself: Is this going to keep me in that limited frame? Is it going to allow me to walk through this in the experience that I want to be in, like the being as present as I can or not? And that's where the challenging that idea comes from.
Mhm.
How is this best serving me?
Yeah.
Right? Can the world serve me and show me some natural way of being in order versus this idea that is hindering me from having the experience? I think that's the train of thought I was going through.
Mhm.
Right?
I mean, everything you just expressed is we've already mentioned in other episodes around questioning things. I feel the best way to get through blocks or limiting beliefs is to question it. Just question the shit out of it. Like, is this really aligned with me? Like, what does this look like in my life now? Is this conducive to my growth? And once you answer that, then you could shift it with a different mindset. And like we talked about around, I think getting into action is okay, what are the some tangible actions that I can make in order to shift into a different mindset? It's a different habit, a different belief. Um, I mean, we just literally just talked about it. It's like faith without dead is dead. I mean, faith without action is dead. Wait a second, that didn't make any sense. But yeah, without any actions, your limited beliefs are still going to stay the same. Your blocks are still going to stay the same. So question it and objectively look at it and say, I mean, we already talked about with my photography. I you helped me question it. Oh shit, this is a limiting belief. I don't believe in myself that I'm a very creative person. I'm not an artistic person. I've always believed I'm black and white. That's the way I saw life because that's just the way I grew up. I my lens, the TV channel that I was looking at was just one channel. I wasn't open to other things because I didn't even know there's other things. I didn't even know there were other channels. Like I literally had no idea there was other channels. I remember this is just a little funny story. So I grew up in North Richmond, poor as hell, didn't grow up with nothing. And I remember as I got a little older, I remember driving to Terra Hills. And I was thinking to myself, like, where the hell are we? Like, what is this? Like I've never seen this place before. Now that I'm older, I'm like, it's just a different city. Like, it's just that's how close minded I was. That's just how programmed I was. Like, I grew up in the hood. And that's all we knew. There was no room for expansion. There was no room for growth. There was no space for anything else other than what I saw in front of me, which is survival. I was surviving. Um, and I think what really helped me out in the beginning around questioning things and doing something differently was to get out of myself, get out of the way. Um, and that didn't start until I got sober. Because I believe if I didn't get sober at 22 years old, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't explore a new way of looking at things. I would have never explored the concept around open minded, the willingness, taking action, and trying something different and failing. Because I think that's the best way to learn. It's to fail. Like we talked about last time, failing forward. Like that's the best way to do it. You're gonna fail forward. You're gonna get back up. You're gonna try it again. Um,
I think that that is the best teacher because
mhm.
in a natural selection type of mindset, like you are going to make mistakes,
Yeah,
and getting comfortable with that
mhm,
is a good thing, right?
yeah,
Like, if I break this down of how were your teachers when you were in elementary, right? Like they taught you basic things to navigate life to this point, and the only way to retain that was like trying to do it. And you, when you're in elementary, like you probably don't have that much like cognitive ability. You just want to play.
yeah,
On the teacher aspect of something, they were patient and compassionate with you to teach you
mm,
these things that are fundamental to what you navigate life with now.
yeah,
Being open to that combined with play is good because then you end up learning more things and they end up like staying with you,
mhm,
right? So I think in this point, like the having support systems, having those friends, having life coach, having therapist, having people that get you, and being in those
mhm,
spaces definitely help with these beliefs and have that very diverse,
mhm,
right? The number one thing that I've seen is people. One of the things that I had with myself was if someone disagreed with me, I felt I had to prove a point to make
yes,
my view right, and
mhm,
I can't change another person's mind,
yeah,
right? Like on something small or something like politics or something, like that.
mhm,
Um, Acknowledging that I don't have that power, and also why don't what like it's causing me some resistance, like I was saying earlier. There's some anger or some fear coming up.
mhm,
One of the modalities I want to swing into that I would do is I would ask them questions about it from a place of curiosity.
mhm, yes,
Because what does that do? That allows you to see the other side of things and have compassion and empathy for that to have a more balanced view, right?
yeah,
And some of the other modalities that I wanted to like talk about is like, yeah, talking with others, maybe going to events that you don't understand what the topic, what it's about. Like
Mhm.
people generalize a lot, and specifically with social media about, like, there's ideas being thrown around, and like you just take that at face value and kind of go with the society, go with the flow. But who actually does their actual research around these different topics,
Mhm.
right? We're so quick to just jump with the herd. I say challenge that belief of like, what are the facts?
Yeah.
What actually comes
Yeah.
up? One of the ways that I found that out of like challenging these things is like, I in one of the previous episodes we talked about writing down goals. What do you want to achieve? What are actual things in there? And the main question was, what is stopping you?
Yourself.
Yourself, which is mostly like maybe beliefs or resistance to things or conditioned beliefs, like we were kind of talking about earlier. And the actionable things underneath that would be, how can I change that? How can I adapt to that? How
Yeah.
can I be open minded to this? What are actionable things I can do? And just
Yeah.
doing this,
Yeah.
the main things of maybe integrating with a new community, looking up the information online, or putting yourself in the situation or around that person or whatever it is, because life is going to teach you whatever it needs to teach you if you're open to it,
Yeah.
right? And like, I think there's also a balance of questioning things as well, because you also went through a phase of like, I got to stop dissecting everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes where there's times and places to process and question things, and also there's time to just be. And that's a hard thing to do, especially, because I come from my background's AA and then life coaching, which is dissecting, breaking things down, looking inward, constantly going
Accountability.
inward. And so I always feel like I have to be in that space. And and it wasn't until there's a few women that I've dated that call me out on that. Like, Jose, it doesn't always have to be serious. What do you mean?
Oh,
I want to go in depth. I want to understand this. Like, no, let's just chill. What do you mean let's just chill? Do you not want to talk to me now? No. And but that's just where my brain goes. And so there has to be levity in conversation. There has to be playfulness as well too. And I really love how you circle back with curiosity, because I believe curiosity is it's such a learning brain growth mindset place to be at. And when you are in curiosity, there's no room for judgment. There's no room for analyzing or criticizing. It's just very open. When I think about curiosity, I just like, ooh, what is this? Huh? What is that? Why is this coming? Just like you're in that energy and that flow that just wants to explore, wants to understand things in a very loving, compassionate way. And I think for a person like myself that experienced a lot of trauma, that was in my experience as a kid. So to give that to myself is such a very healing process to go through. So that could be another modality as well too, is learning how to talk to yourself in a way that you want to be talked to as a child. And that ties in a lot of inner child work, especially around limited beliefs, because for me, I didn't think I was lovable because the way I was treated as a kid. So I always carry that energy with me that there's no way someone's gonna love me. And I remember always thinking, like, there's no way this person loves, like, why she wants me? Like, why me? Like, why me? I had all these people, why me? Then I started remember, like, what, not me? I have a lot to give. But see, I had to give that love to myself. I had to soothe myself. I had to give the energy back to myself, reparent myself so I could feel more embodied in that love. And then I could be in a space to receive it from someone else and know that I'm worthy of this love and more of that.
I like how you brought it back to the inner child thing, because I think one of the other modalities that I've incorporated is, if I'm in an activated or semi-activated state, one of the things that helps me is viewing other people as if they were like 5-year-old versions of themselves. What is the base thing going on, right? And
Yes.
it
Yes.
helps me empathize to then dissolve any up and coming like judgments or retaliation that may be coming from my own end, which is my inner child being
Yeah.
like, It's just like think of the world as a giant playground, and someone took your ball, and you're a
It's my
child. Both,
ball.
well, yeah, you're. That's exactly what it is. You're operating in a sense of a child just wanting immediate wants and needs. And when you get older, you integrate logic, and there's a level of maturity. I think the key is to balance both of these things and be able to be like you talked about self-soothing. Maybe there was a trauma that happened where there's more intensive things like you express of like I didn't know I didn't have received love like this before, so I questioned it because I felt less than.
Yeah.
So the balance that out to fulfill that what is the storyline to have it more complete is to talk to yourself in a way that is more loving, more caring, and literally envisioning talking to your younger self, your like the
Mhm.
5-year-old version of you, or
Yeah.
whatever version of you that held that trauma, which is part of the inner
Mhm.
child work. Because what ends up
Mhm.
happening is then the resistance of whatever is going on generally diminishes because then that inner child is happier, and then you integrate
Mhm.
the curiosity that naturally comes from kids. If you ever there was an example that was made by some book that I was reading, and it's like if you ever view children in their like natural way, like there's not really any judgments. Like you
No,
just
it's just playfulness. It's
different
just
parents take the little one to link up
positioning.
at this playground with other little ones, and then they just play. Like
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
judgment,
They're innocent.
there's no conditioning from the world
Yeah,
unless like whatever their parents taught them, but they just want to play.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So at that base level, that's what I want to get back to.
yeah.
Right, and work on that self to allow more curiosity to happen so that I can be present in all these experiences because children are very present.
Yeah, no, they really are. When they engage in something, they're like locked in. Like there's no way of distracting them from what they're doing. And as you were talking, I kept thinking about this. I wouldn't say concept, but building relationship with different parts of the human experience. And what I mean about that is learn how to deal with rejection. Have a relationship with rejection because if you when you do have a relationship with rejection, you remain teachable. Build a relationship with failure because it allows you to remain teachable. These things that are quote unquote bad or negative, build a relationship with them because what that's going to end up doing for you is going to allow you to remain teachable and you be open to many more opportunities that you weren't able to see if you didn't build a relationship with these things. Um, I always felt for a long time that when the relationship didn't work out, that I failed in a relationship, and I would dissect the relationship, what I did wrong, and there was no room for curiosity. There was no room for love and compassion. There was no room to reflect of all the beautiful things that I did do in a relationship. Right. So as I gotten older and I learned a lot more and I continued to learn more and I stayed open, I was able to go back and reflect on some dynamics that I was in. I was like, you know what? I did a pretty damn good job. I dysregulated at times? Yes. Did my inner child come out quite a bit? Yes. But I've always took the time to reflect. I always took the time to connect with self and regulate myself, meet with my therapist or talk to my men's guys. Um, and did these practices that I've done throughout the years that are in front of me that I have a choice to do. And the root of all that is that I build a relationship with a lot of different things, which is I didn't feel like I was rejected. I didn't feel like I felt that relationship. I felt that I wasn't lying at the time. We were in two different places. But I stayed open. I was curious. I was willing to take the actions around it. Did it work out the way I wanted? No. But it worked out the way it was supposed to. Yes. Did I learn a lot from it? Hell yeah, I did. Did I take a lot from it and I'm moving forward? Hell yeah, I did. Um, and so that's just the beauty of remaining teachable, of not thinking that you know everything. Um, because I used to think I knew a lot of shit. Like I had a pretty big ego. Like I knew a lot.
Which segues
But
into what I wanted to talk about.
mhm,
Well, two things. One was the analogy of being a master. of something, right? And just
Yes, the student becomes the master.
well, I've been seeing all these like mastery classes go around and whatnot, and like with this topic, I was like, you're never really a full master at something unless one, you can teach that to another person,
Yeah,
and two, have you really learned all you can about that one thing to call yourself that master? Even the masters acknowledge that there's other things that they want to learn. So are they really a master at something? Right? So there's a lot of humility in that. And like
yeah,
if someone is going gets a lot of ego from titleship, that could be in its own a limiting belief. If you think you know
mhm.
it all, is there room for you to expand? Right? So kind of going into the thing of like I don't want to say ego death, there's another word for it, but
I mean,
lessening ego
that
death.
is a concept though. Like you got to kill the ego constantly. There's parts of you that have to die in order to emerge and to birth into a new self.
True, but I think at a level of everyone needs ego at a basic sense of self-sufficiency, self-survival,
Yeah,
right? Because if you didn't have ego, like you would die.
yeah.
The
I mean, everyone has an ego. It's part of
So
the inner war
tempering
of us.
tempering the spikes that come up, I think is the point that I'm making. Because when they come up in unnecessary things, then can you really humble yourself to
Yeah,
learn about the new thing, right?
mhm, yeah,
So I think that's one of the limiting beliefs. Because like if you think you know everything about a certain topic, or like, are the first persons to kind of like prove themselves, these are like signs of maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I should allow others to speak,
yeah,
right? Maybe I should listen to what is coming up, or if no one's around in that sense, talking to the therapist of helping. What is this trying to teach me? Well, where's this block? I think there's a benefit of having a mirror in the format of like the support system and friends and therapists and all that to allow you to see that. Because like the real
yeah.
ones, the real ones will
The real ones.
definitely check you.
Yeah, call you forward. Um,
Yeah, like they'll call you forward and check you, right? Because if they really love you in that sense and care for you in that way, they want to see the best version of you.
yeah,
So I'm a firm believer in like the people that I'll allow around me. I need that level of accountability to come back to me. Because if I'm trying to learn something new, it keeps me humble. I don't need my ego to get way too inflated because I've been there and it gets really lonely and then I self destruct,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's interesting you say that because I started our men's meeting, and I recently had a conversation with one of our old men. He's not in the meeting anymore, but he was introducing me to his partner, and like he's here goes the guy that started the men's meeting. He's the master. He's the one that runs it all. Um, and I was like, "Yeah, I appreciate it," but I was like, "I'm just another guy amongst other guys." He said, "No, but you run this meeting, and you're like, you're like the CEO or like the guru." No, he was calling me a guru. Um, and I've been called guru a few times in the past, and I don't know, they didn't say well with me because I don't want to be in that space. I want to remain teachable. I don't want to know it all. I don't want to be put in a pedestal where my ego does inflate and I have this huge head of like, oh yeah, look at me, like look at the way people are looking at me, look at all this stuff that I'm doing because I've been there. I've been in that space in 2019 where I had a lot of going on and my head got really, really, really big, and there was no room for anything that people were trying to tell me because I was full of my shit. And needless to say, I had an emotional bottom in 2019, and that actually cracked me open and inflated that ego and started this journey of remaining open and remain teachable and start dabbling into other forms of a healing that really allowed me to be where I'm at today. But it was very interesting because I had to check myself and not really check myself, but remind the person that I'm just another guy amongst another guy. I just happened to start a men's meeting that I wanted in my life that was a little more aligned with where I was in my life. And yeah, it just kind of reminded me of 2019 when people were calling me guru. I'm like, no, don't call me a guru. I don't like that title. But I am flattered that people see me in the space of um how should I say this? They see me as a person that has wisdom and knowledge that they could come to. They could share their truth with me, and I could give them some advice. Like it's nice to be in that space that people come to me for that. But I also don't want to be put in a pedestal where I seem perfect because I'm definitely not perfect. I am human. I have flaws, and that's what makes me human.
I think acknowledging that a level of a compliment, but only you know that if it's going to inflate your ego or not. Because the
Yeah.
same thing with me of like people have told me that like I'm some car guru or some like car master mechanic, and I was like, I have just messed a bunch of stuff up on my car, and I had to fix it, and I love doing it. So then I broke more stuff so that I could fix it, and that like I appreciate the compliment. I'm no
Yeah.
master. I don't know everything,
Yeah.
and I know that internally. So, but I'll take the compliment,
Yeah.
and I'll express that, but I'll also express the humility in that. Like, just
Yeah.
that's a learning lesson in itself to say, like, I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
also I am just one among many,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? So
And even like yeah.
that's
I mean,
life
there's
giving
many
you a lesson.
examples. Yeah, no, definitely. Even that goes with my photography as well too. Like people, oh my god, you're such a good photographer. You're amazing, and da, 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 you're so talented. I'm like, thank you, but you don't see all the shots that I miss. There's so many shots that I miss.
It's
You only see the ones that make it out to Instagram.
I think social media does play a part in that too. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
like
people put
you
what?
only see the final product, and
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
short
yeah.
format content is
Mhm,
what's out there, so it's digested really quickly. So like what you
mhm.
see, there's like I like visual examples. There's like an example of like what people put on Instagram or social media, which is like 8 orange squares. What's really going on behind the scenes is like a multicolored, faceted, a bunch of different squares. Like you only see the one orange circle that they're constantly putting out there. There are failures that occur, and
Yeah,
it seems a little dehumanizing. So when you
yeah.
come
I think
back to like remaining human of like I'm going to fail and that's okay, and making that
yeah.
normal for yourself, you will exceed and go very far in life.
That's one of the reasons why I'm very personable on my Instagram, and I share some deep stuff with people on Instagram because I want people to know that it's okay to share those things on Instagram, and also too that that's part of me being a human being. Yes, I'm full of life. Yes, I have a lot going on in my life, but I'm also human. Just even when I posted that reel, what, a few weeks ago around having this emotional release around this person I used to date, and knowing that she was going to see that too on Instagram, um, I was like, I felt like I need to share that. I need to let people know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to express these things. I don't always have to post just photos and like beautiful sceneries or beautiful quotes or like my writing. I can share some deep shit on there as well too. And so I always appreciate when I read stuff like that because it humanizes the digital world. That it doesn't always have to be rainbows and flowers all the time. I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards my page because they appreciate the authenticity that I show on my photography and on my page. I've gotten a lot of compliments around like, wow, like your caption just hit differently because you actually talk about some real shit. I'm like, yeah, this is like some real shit that I'm going through. And I set this quote today to one of my buddies. What's most personable is most universal. So the more personal I get with people, it travels. It's people connect with that because it's a human element of expressing your authentic energy to someone else. And that hits harder than this like false narrative, false whatever shit you want to put on Instagram. Um, and that ties in well with the topic is when I am in the place of remaining teachable, my authenticity shows even more.
That's true. That's definitely
And
true.
and people feel that authenticity, you know.
Well,
People feel shit.
you're putting out that energy too,
Yeah,
right? And
people
it's
feel when you're being fake. People feel that shit, man. Like they feel it from like people feel my energy through Instagram. They haven't even met me yet. And then when we meet me in person, like, oh shit, like you're actually like real. I'm like, Yeah, like I'm the same person on Instagram that you see in person.
I don't think there's a lot of that on Instagram, right? Because of like the platform that it's become.
Hmm.
So having that is different and it sets you apart and it's unique because that's not it's a good trait to be personable. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Um I like that you touched on the authenticity. So I'm
Yeah.
a firm believer that I was like, I'm not gonna put on this facade because I played that role for so long to the point where it led to anxiety and depression because I got tired of it.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of
integrating
work.
so integrating the humanness of it of these are things that are gonna come up. I have the option to fake it or acknowledge what's going on to then work on it to then have a more present experience. Coming back to the topic of everything's going to teach me something. Even if I'm trying to get to a certain goal, there may be like five other things I got to learn before I get to that goal, which may
Mhm.
incorporate inner child work, changing lenses, or actively taking a physical action of doing something or putting myself in a different environment. Like each one of those things are going to teach me some pillar of what that goal is going to be stood up upon.
Mhm. Yeah.
And what are ways that will like go towards like all the modalities, other ways to achieve ego death, or other ways to acknowledge that something is going to teach me something? Like I want to touch on those topics because we talked about. Well, this is kind of like ending this whole series of the last couple of episodes that we've been posting on YouTube of what to do in trauma, what to do in uncertainty, which all of this ties together. You know, if we're trying to
Yeah.
achieve a goal and do an action, you are going to hit a level of I'm done with it, which is very very limiting. You know, there's goal
Mhm.
setting, which is like I've crossed this threshold and I want to set another one to obtain another level of that. Life is always going to teach me something. And the best metaphor that I have for that is life is like a heartbeat. You're going to have ups and downs, but you're still going to continue forward. When you stop having ups and downs, you flatline. You're done. Your purpose on this planet is complete. Your contract's signed. So when I look at it in that way, everything has something to teach me. What are modalities that I could humble myself to accept what's coming up, the ups, the downs, the kind of sidestepping, or like, oh, that was weird moments of like, did I learn something from that?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
honestly, I think we already talked about all of it, man. um, it's like curiosity is a modality. Questioning is a modality. Um, Pausing and journaling, writing things down is a modality. Regulating your nervous system to come back to safety is a way to do that as well too, because you can't remain teachable if you're in a survival state of being. You have to be connected with the body. You have to be regulated. You have to be grounded in your presence. And I mean, when I had that example on Friday where my colleague took me to that process, she regulated me first. She allowed me to connect with the body, and once I connected with the body, I felt that sensation, and then I was able to stay open to it and fall into that and allow that to express itself. And it came out in a very beautiful way. Um, and yeah, and it doesn't. It's not very difficult. And it's easy for me to say that because I've done a lot of work and and I understand that people have to meet themselves where they're at. And I think that's another concept that you really had to remind yourself is meet with yourself where you're at. Because where I may be may not where you be. Where Amit is may not be where I'm at as well too. And we all in different places in our life. And so when you meet yourself where you're at, there's curiosity, there's hope, there's acknowledgement, there's compassion, and I always emphasize those because I didn't receive a lot of that as a kid, so I know it's really important for me to receive that with myself and repairing myself to soothe myself in that space. And so when I am in that space and giving myself all those things, it allows me to be a little more open. It allows me to shift the energy into something that's a little more conducive to me. And if I don't have any answers, then I need to call someone. I need to call someone who's like, hey, like this is coming up for me. It doesn't feel right. What do you think? And they may ask the right question that you need, and they might help you tap into the answer that's already within yourself. because I believe we already have our answers within ourselves. It's just it's suppressed, it's conditioned, it's just deep program that we had to de-web ourselves out of it. Um, and that takes time. It takes openness, it takes willingness, and it takes the action to move forward and to do these things that allows these answers to come out within ourselves. And sometimes you may not be ready for it. There's answers that I've received in the last few years that I was not available like 5, 6 years ago because where I was at the time was very different. I wouldn't be able to understand it for what it was. I need to go through more other situations in order for me to have a better understanding for it.
I like that you mentioned meeting yourself where you're at, and also you had to physically walk through something in order to understand it. And like when you're talking about meeting yourself where you're at, and that part, it reminded me of when COVID first happened, and we like made the home gym, and we're living
Mhm.
at the same spot. And to do cardio, I got the jump rope, and I was doing that, and I was like, "Dude, this is really hard." And you're like, "It's not that hard." And then it was your turn, and you're like, "Bro, this is hella heavy." I was like, "Now you're complaining about it?" You had to walk through that. You had to walk through the experience. I remember that so vividly.
I did too because I was talking so much shit.
You had to
I was
walk
like,
through
bro,
that to
jump rope is
understand it.
nothing, bro. This is nothing. And I was like, oh shit, this is hard.
And it, we never really know what other people are going through, including other people don't know what we're going through.
Yeah.
And another example was like if a room full of like 10 people wrote all their biggest problems and put it down on the floor, chances are they're going to grab their own problems back and not take another person's,
Yeah.
because we don't like it may be of greater,
They're
I
like,
don't
oh
know.
shit, he has it worse.
Yeah, it's like another way of integrating gratitude for what I have, right? I may be
Mhm.
always looking forward to things and goals that I want to hit, but I've already come further than I thought I probably would from the past. Like,
Yeah.
let me be grateful for those things,
Yeah.
right? And what's going to take me further to kind of to tie all this stuff together is being open to what the world, what things, and what people are going to teach me because they were meant to come across my path at a certain time. And like, if everything's impermanent, let me make the most of that moment,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
even we are impermanent. Our time on this planet and in this life is impermanent. So make the most out of it. And the way to get further in depth, my belief,
Mhm.
is to be open through that. Modalities that include, I'm just going to go through them, like the journaling process of writing the things out, seeing if there's any resistance to things, listening to the body, learning where the energy is stored into this, seeing if there's an old belief like the inner child, maybe there's some trauma or something in there. Talk to your friends, get support systems, talk to communities, talk to us. I mean, if you're struggling with something, that's something that I always say, hit us up on the Instagram at Hella Spiritual Podcast, Jose at Jose KHA, myself at ASG240. Like, we love having conversations with that because we probably have been through something that may felt similar,
Yeah.
but utilizing the modalities to come back through it helps. Community helps. Co-regulation helps, right? And other modalities I wanted to talk about really quick is I've heard a lot with this growing popularity of plant medicines. I heard a lot of people using ayahuasca to reach ego death. Like, you don't have to go to that level, but there are other people seeing that. The point is utilizing modalities that we could do in the moment with self, breath work, regrounding, seeing what narratives may need to be shifted, and acknowledging that like you will be okay in the fight, flight, or fawn response that's coming up may not need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've said a lot that we needed to say. I'm not the master of anything,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I damn sure know a lot.
Yeah. I do want to say this, and this has been my experience. Sometimes you need to borrow someone else's perspective, someone else's truth until you can find your own. Um, and this was my experience when I first got sober. I didn't know nothing when I got sober. I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to call. I didn't know how to do things. I literally started from zero. And so my mentor taught me a lot of things, and it was great for a long time. But what I realized is that I didn't know how to do things on my own. I had to come to him for every single thing, like simple things, like go to this place or like ask this girl out. Like I didn't know how to do that for myself because I never did that.
Talking
And
about
so
autonomy. You
yeah,
didn't learn
autonomy.
it. Yeah.
I didn't have any autonomy. And so until I started dabbling into some other things, and then I start questioning that, and then I start stepping into that truth that I start understanding for myself. And then when I started pushing that near him, he didn't like that because he was so used to me saying what he wanted me to do all the time. And that's when things started changing for me because I started questioning things. And what he did for me was beautiful. It worked. It led me to where I was at. But I wanted to know my own truth. I wanted to know my own answers. I wanted to believe my own inner guidance. I want to follow my own intuition, not someone else's. And so the reason why I say this, don't always rely getting answers from other people as well too. Be mindful of what you actually take in from someone else. Um, because I believe we all have our answers within ourselves. And sometimes we tend to pick up on others just because we may need it at the time, but also to question that as well too. Because that was my experience. Like I said, I didn't have any kind of guidance. I didn't have any inner guidance or inner compass. I was using someone else's until I started realizing, like, wait, like I have my own. I want to explore that. I want to tap into that. I want to know what that looks like. I want to know how it feels and express that and like show it and embody that. And when I started doing that, I was like, oh, this feels amazing. Like this is coming within myself. So I just want to just emphasize that a little bit. Just to be mindful who you talk to, people, who do you talk to, and what information you're taking in, because you could definitely get misguided as well too. So that's why you should only talk to us. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, it's
But
like
yeah,
I like that you use the terminology borrow another person's ideas, right? Because that kind of goes hand in hand with the thing that I was expressing of talk with others, talk with people that you may have resistance of talking to because someone in your past has told you don't agree with this thing that these people agree with or whatever. Like they have something to offer. They're humans too, right?
yeah, yeah,
And maybe I need to borrow this aspect of a belief from them for a short time to learn something that I need to learn, and then I could set it aside, set it down, and then have my own experience. Like
yeah.
I keep going back to the COVID type of experience. Like I didn't want to go back and socialize with people, but I knew I had
Mhm.
to. So one of the ways was like we started doing the photography thing, and I just tagged along with you, and through you doing the social things, I was able to start doing that on my own and have my own experiences.
Yeah.
Someone says going from codependence to interdependence, which is spot on.
Yes.
There's like acknowledging that another person has something of value, but you don't necessarily need to take it on as an identity.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Well
we
said. Whoever said that, that's awesome.
Rochelle, she said that.
Who?
Rochelle.
Hey, I'm out on the chat, so I can't see anything.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the
You
screens.
have like 20 screens, like, "Ah, I don't know where to look."
I'm in the matrix. But yeah,
You really are. 20
uh
screens, like,
Jose.
I'm on it now. I just wanted to see it.
So we talked about a lot. I wanted to just finish off with any final points.
Um, I hope this episode landed for you. I hope it gave you some clarity, some things to look at. I hope that we're able to share things that were digestible, that you're able to apply into your life. And yeah, I really enjoyed having this conversation with Amit and our viewer. I believe we only have one person on, right?
There was two at one point, but yeah.
It's two people. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was a really good episode, something that we felt like we wanted to share this with all you all. Um yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think I said a lot today already.
We did. So we appreciate people like supporting us in this.
Mhm.
It definitely helps if we can get like likes or subscribes on the
Yep.
channel, get the
Share
exposure
it.
out there, send it
Yes.
forward. I'm gonna
Send
make
it
that a
forward.
sticker. I'm definitely gonna make
Dude,
that a sticker.
write it down right now.
Hashtag
S-
send it.
Someone sent us a message, a really beautiful message last week. And she said it at the end of her message. She's like, I'm gonna send it forward. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get it.
send it forward.
But yeah, if something resonated with you, or you feel like someone else around you in your circle or your communities can benefit from this, definitely send it forward to them. We appreciate the exposure. Appreciate growing the community. With that, if you have comments, concerns, questions, or just need an ear to talk to, hit us up. Again, I'll mention the Instagrams at Hella Spiritual Podcast, our mutual podcast page. Jose at Jose AKHA, myself at ASG240. We love connecting with the community. We love having these conversations and receiving
Yes.
the energy back that we're putting into this because we need the feedback. We love the
Yes.
feedback.
Yes.
On the final announcement that I want to say is like in a couple of weeks, we are opening up a men's program. We're looking for 10 men that are interested in, self reflection, in like inner work, or just bringing anything to the table, that, like providing a space to where you can express these things and what you need to work on, as like a trial group. So we're definitely pushing forward on that. If you are interested, please DM at Hell Spiritual Podcast. I'm ready, or I'm interested in the program, or email at hellaspiritualpodcast at gmail.com. Um, we're probably going to release the dates in a week or so, but it's a couple weeks out.
Yeah.
So we're looking for 10 guys. Hit us up on
And
the email or the Instagram. And I think that's all that I have on my notebook.
yeah, I think yeah, I hope everyone's having a beautiful evening. I hope you had a beautiful weekend full of snow and cold weather. Uh, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Oh, y'all, in the next
Till the
episode.
next episode. All
Do-do-do-do.
right. Have a good night, y'all.
Have a good night.
And